Have you ever wondered why some people walk into a room with confidence, speak with certainty, and take action without fear, while others constantly question themselves? It's not because they're smarter, it's not because they're more talented, and it's definitely not because they've never failed. The difference is that confident people have learned something most of us were never taught. Confidence is not something you're born with, it's something you build. You see, self-doubt has a voice. It tells you you're not ready. It tells you you're not good enough. It tells you to wait for the perfect moment. But confidence has a different voice. It says, take the first step and you'll figure it out along the way. The problem is that most people spend their lives listening to doubt instead of listening to possibility. Today, I want to share how you can build unshakable self-confidence, silence that inner critic, and finally stop doubting yourself. Because the moment you start believing in your own potential is the moment your life begins to change. So let's begin with a simple question. What would you do if you truly believed in yourself? One of the biggest reasons people struggle with self-confidence is that they spend their lives waiting for permission. They wait for someone to tell them they are good enough, talented enough, smart enough, or worthy enough. They look around and measure their value based on the opinions, reactions, and approval of other people. The problem is that confidence built on validation is never stable. The moment the applause stops, the confidence disappears. The moment someone criticizes you, your belief in yourself begins to shake. From a young age, many of us are conditioned to seek approval. We learn that good grades bring praise. Good behavior brings rewards. Following expectations brings acceptance. Over time, we begin to associate our worth with the responses we receive from others. We stop asking ourselves what we think, and we become obsessed with what everyone else thinks. We start making decisions not based on our values, but based on the possibility of approval. Think about how many dreams never become reality because someone was afraid of being judged. How many ideas remain unspoken because someone worried people might laugh? How many opportunities are missed because someone feared rejection? The need for validation becomes a prison that limits growth, creativity, and potential. The truth is that no matter what you do in life, not everyone will approve you. Some people will support your decisions. Others will question them. Some will celebrate your success. Others may criticize it. If your confidence depends on universal approval, you will spend your entire life chasing something that does not exist. There is no path, no achievement, and no version of yourself that will earn approval from everyone. Many people believe confidence comes after recognition. They think once people respect them, then they will believe in themselves. They think once they become successful, then they will feel worthy. They think once others acknowledge their abilities, then confidence will naturally appear. But the reality is often the opposite. The people who achieve meaningful things are usually the ones who believe in themselves before anyone else does. Every entrepreneur, athlete, artist, leader, or innovator who accomplished something extraordinary had moments when nobody understood their vision. They faced doubt, criticism, and skepticism. If they had waited for validation before taking action, they would never have started. Their confidence came from trusting themselves enough to move forward despite uncertainty. When you constantly seek validation, you hand over control of your self-worth to other people. You allow strangers, coworkers, friends, family members, and social media audiences to determine how you feel about yourself. Your mood rises when they praise you and falls when they ignore you. Your confidence becomes dependent on factors you cannot control. True confidence begins when you reclaim that control. It begins when you stop asking, do they believe in me? And start asking, do I believe in myself? That shift changes everything. It moves the source of confidence from the outside world to the inside world. This does not mean ignoring feedback or refusing to learn from others. Feedback can be valuable, advice can be helpful. Constructive criticism can help you grow. The difference is that confident people use feedback as information, not as a definition of their worth. They listen without allowing every opinion to become their identity. Imagine standing in front of a mirror every day and letting other people decide what reflection you see. One person says you're talented, and suddenly you feel capable. Another person says you're not good enough, and suddenly you feel inadequate. Your image changes depending on who is speaking. That is exhausting. That is unstable. That is what happens when validation becomes the foundation of confidence. Confidence grows when you develop a clear understanding of your values, strengths, and purpose. When you know who you are, outside opinions lose their power. They may still affect you, but they no longer control you. You stop living for approval and start living with intention. Social media has made the validation trap even stronger. People post photos, videos, opinions, and achievements, then wait for likes, comments, and reactions. A good response creates a temporary boost. A poor response creates disappointment. Over time, self-worth becomes linked to numbers on a screen. The danger is that validation becomes addictive. No amount is ever enough because external approval provides only temporary satisfaction. The more you depend on validation, the more power you give away. The more power you give away, the less confident you become. Confidence cannot thrive when your identity is constantly shaped by other people's opinions. It thrives when you develop an internal belief system that remains strong regardless of external reactions. There will always be people who misunderstand you. There will always be people who doubt your abilities. There will always be people who question your choices. If you make their approval a requirement for action, you will remain stuck. A growth requires the courage to move forward without guarantees of acceptance. The most confident people are not those who receive the most validation. They are the ones who need it the least. They understand that their value does not increase when someone praises them, and it does not decrease when someone criticizes them. Their confidence comes from self-respect, self-awareness, and a commitment to their own standards. When you stop seeking validation, you stop living as a reflection of other people's expectations. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's definition of success. You stop pretending to be someone you're not just to gain acceptance. You begin making choices that align with your values rather than your fears. That is where genuine confidence begins to emerge, not from applause, not from recognition, not from approval, but from the quiet certainty that you do not need anyone else's permission to believe in your own potential. One of the fastest ways to build self-confidence is to keep the promises you make to yourself. It sounds simple, but most people underestimate how powerful this habit really is. Every day, we make commitments to ourselves. We tell ourselves that we will wake up earlier, exercise regularly, learn a new skill, finish an important project, save money, read more books, or finally start working toward a goal that matters. The problem is not that we lack goals. The problem is that we often fail to follow through on the commitments we make. When you repeatedly break promises to yourself, something happens beneath the surface. You begin to lose trust in yourself. You may not notice it immediately, but your mind is always paying attention. Every time you say you are going to do something and then fail to do it, you send yourself a message. That message is, "My words cannot be trusted." Over time, this creates a gap between what you say and what you actually do. Imagine having a friend who constantly makes promises but never follows through. They tell you they will show up, but they cancel. They tell you they will help, but they disappear. They make commitments again and again, yet their actions never match their words. Eventually, you stop trusting them. You stop believing what they say because experience has taught you that their promises have little value. The same thing happens in your relationship with yourself. Confidence is deeply connected to trust. If you cannot trust yourself to follow through on your own commitments, it becomes difficult to believe in your abilities. Self-confidence is not built by positive thinking alone. It is built by evidence. Your brain needs proof that you are someone who can be counted on. Many people think confidence comes from achieving huge goals, but confidence is often built through small victories. It grows when you make a commitment and honor it. It grows when your actions consistently support your intentions. Every time you follow through, you strengthen the belief that you are capable and reliable. The reason small promises matter so much is because they create momentum. If you tell yourself that you will read 10 pages of a book and you do it, you build trust. If you decide to wake up 30 minutes earlier and follow through, you build trust. If you promise yourself that you will spend 1 hour learning a new skill and you keep that promise, you build trust. These actions may seem insignificant in isolation, but together they create a powerful foundation for confidence. Many people sabotage themselves by setting unrealistic expectations. They become motivated, make enormous plans, and commit to dramatic changes overnight. They decide they will work out 2 hours every day, completely transform their lives in a month, or achieve a year's worth of progress in a few weeks. The excitement feels good in the moment, but the expectations are often impossible to maintain. When they inevitably fall short, they feel discouraged and begin questioning themselves. The goal is not to make bigger promises. The goal is to make promises you can consistently keep. A small commitment that is honored every day is far more powerful than a massive commitment that is abandoned after a week. Consistency creates confidence because it proves that your actions are dependable. There is something powerful about becoming a person who does what they say they will do. It creates a sense of integrity. Your words and actions become aligned. You stop relying on motivation and start relying on discipline. You no longer need to feel inspired every day because you have developed the habit of following through regardless of how you feel. This is where many people get stuck. They believe they must feel confident before taking action. In reality, confidence often comes after action. You do not become confident and then keep promises to yourself. You keep promises to yourself and confidence grows as a result. Action creates evidence. Evidence creates belief. Belief creates confidence. Every commitment you honor becomes a vote for the person you want to become. Every time you follow through, you reinforce a new identity. You begin seeing yourself as disciplined, capable, and trustworthy. Instead of hoping you can succeed, you start knowing you can because your actions repeatedly prove it. There will be days when you do not feel like following through. There will be days when excuses seem reasonable. There will be moments when procrastination feels more comfortable than action. Those moments matter more than the easy ones because they reveal your true level of commitment. Anyone can keep a promise when they are motivated. Confidence is built when you keep a promise even when motivation is absent. The relationship you have with yourself is one of the most important relationships in your life. Just like any relationship, it depends on trust. Trust is earned through consistency. Every time you honor your commitments, you strengthen that trust. Every time you break them without reason, you weaken it. People often search for confidence in books, courses, speeches, and external advice. While those things can be valuable, confidence ultimately grows through personal experience. It grows when you repeatedly demonstrate to yourself that you can rely on your own actions. It grows when your behavior becomes proof of your character. The strongest confidence is not loud. It does not need constant validation. It does not depend on praise or recognition. It comes from knowing that when you make a commitment, you will do everything in your power to honor it. It comes from knowing that your words carry weight because they are backed by action. Every day gives you an opportunity to strengthen that belief. Every promise you keep becomes another piece of evidence. Every act of discipline becomes another reason to trust yourself. Every small victory reinforces the understanding that you are capable of doing difficult things. The more evidence you collect, the stronger your confidence becomes, because confidence is not built on wishful thinking. It is built on a proven record of keeping the promises you make to yourself. One of the greatest obstacles to self-confidence is the way people view failure. Many individuals see failure as proof that they are not talented enough, smart enough, or capable enough. They treat mistakes as permanent judgments about their abilities rather than temporary experiences that provide valuable lessons. As a result, every setback becomes a reason to doubt themselves, and every challenge becomes something to avoid. The truth is that failure does not define you. What defines you is the meaning you attach to it. Two people can experience the exact same setback and walk away with completely different conclusions. One person may decide that the failure proves they are not good enough. The other may decide that the failure is simply information that can help them improve. One becomes discouraged and quits. The other becomes wiser and continues moving forward. Confidence is not built by avoiding failure. Confidence is built by learning how to respond to failure. If your confidence depends on never making mistakes, your confidence will always be fragile because mistakes are an unavoidable part of life. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has faced disappointment, rejection, criticism, and setbacks along the way. Think about how children learn to walk. They do not succeed on the first attempt. They fall repeatedly. They lose balance. They struggle. Yet they continue trying because they do not interpret failure as evidence that walking is impossible. They simply treat each attempt as part of the learning process. Somewhere along the way, many adults lose this mindset. They begin expecting perfection and become afraid of looking foolish, making mistakes, or experiencing setbacks. This fear creates hesitation. People stop taking risks because they want to avoid failure. They avoid opportunities because they fear rejection. They remain in their comfort zones because uncertainty feels dangerous. Ironically, the attempt to avoid failure often prevents growth. The very experiences that could build confidence are the experiences they never allow themselves to have. Failure contains information. Every mistake reveals something useful. It shows you what works and what does not. It exposes weaknesses that need improvement. It highlights skills that need development. It provides feedback that success alone often cannot provide. When viewed correctly, failure becomes one of the most effective teachers available. The most successful people in any field understand this principle. They do not see setbacks as signs to stop. They see them as signals to adjust. They recognize that every achievement is built upon lessons learned from previous mistakes. They understand that progress is rarely a straight line. It is often a process of trial, or error, adjustment, and improvement. Consider someone learning a new skill. Whether it is public speaking, starting a business, playing an instrument, or learning a sport, mistakes are inevitable. No one begins as an expert. The beginner who expects perfection becomes frustrated quickly. The beginner who expects mistakes understands that errors are simply part of the journey. One becomes discouraged by failure. The other learns from it. The problem is that many people personalize failure. Instead of saying, "This attempt did not work," they say, "I am a failure." There is a significant difference between those two statements. One focuses on an event. The other attacks identity. When failure becomes part of your identity, confidence suffers because you begin viewing every setback as evidence that something is wrong with you. Confident people separate their identity from their mistakes. They understand that failing at something does not make them failures. It simply means they have not succeeded yet. They evaluate outcomes objectively and focus on improvement rather than self-criticism. They ask questions like, "What can I learn from this? What would I do differently next time? And how can I improve?" These questions shift attention away from shame and toward growth. Instead of dwelling on disappointment, they focus on solutions. Instead of judging themselves harshly, they become students of their own experience. Many of the fears people carry are rooted not in failure itself, but in what they think failure means. They worry that failure will make them look weak, incompetent, or unworthy. They fear judgment from others. They fear embarrassment. They fear proving their doubts correct. Yet most of these fears exist only in anticipation. The reality of failure is often far less damaging than the fear of it. In fact, many people gain confidence after experiencing setbacks because they discover they are stronger than they thought. They realize they can survive disappointment. They learn that rejection is not the end of the world. They discover that mistakes do not destroy them. These experiences build resilience, and resilience is a major component of confidence. When you stop fearing failure, you become willing to take action. You become willing to try new things, pursue ambitious goals, and step outside your comfort zone. You stop demanding certainty before moving forward. You understand that even if things do not go as planned, you will gain valuable knowledge from the experience. Every successful person carries a collection of failures behind their achievements. What separates them from others is not the absence of mistakes, but their response to them. They refuse to let setbacks become excuses for quitting. They treated failure as feedback. They gathered information, adjusted their approach, and continued moving forward. This mindset transforms the way you see challenges. Obstacles become opportunities to learn. Mistakes become lessons. Setbacks become preparation for future success. Instead of seeing failure as an enemy, you begin seeing it as part of the process. Confidence grows when you realize that your value is not determined by a single outcome. It grows when you understand that mistakes are temporary and growth is possible. It grows when you stop interpreting failure as proof of inadequacy and start viewing it as information that helps you improve. Every lesson learned from a setback makes you more capable, more resilient, and more prepared for the opportunities ahead. The willingness to learn from failure rather than fear, it creates a foundation of confidence that becomes stronger with every challenge you face. One of the most important factors that determine your level of confidence is the conversation you have with yourself every single day. Long before anyone else speaks to you, encourages you, criticizes you, or judges you, there is already a voice inside your mind constantly influencing the way you think, feel, and act. This inner dialogue shapes your beliefs about who you are, what you are capable of achieving, and how you respond to challenges. Many people underestimate the power of this internal voice. They pay close attention to what others say about them, but they rarely pay attention to what they say about themselves. The problem is that your mind is always listening. Every thought you repeat, every label you attach to yourself, and every story you tell yourself gradually becomes part of your identity. Imagine spending an entire day with someone who constantly criticizes you. Every time you make a mistake, they remind you of it. Every time you try something new, they tell you that you will probably fail. Every time an opportunity appears, they explain why you are not qualified enough to pursue it. After weeks, months, or years of hearing those messages, your confidence would begin to disappear. The unfortunate reality is that many people become that critic for themselves. They speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to another human being. They call themselves lazy, weak, incapable, or not good enough. They replay past mistakes repeatedly and use them as evidence that they should not believe in themselves. They focus more on their flaws than their strengths and more on their failures than their progress. The words you repeatedly tell yourself matter because they influence your perception of reality. If you constantly tell yourself that you are incapable, your mind begins searching for proof. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you always fail, your brain starts collecting evidence to support that belief. Over time, these thoughts become automatic. They stop feeling like opinions and start feeling like facts. This is why mastering your inner dialogue is essential for building self-confidence. Confidence is not simply about what happens around you. It is also about what happens within you. Two people can face the same challenge and have completely different experiences because of the way they talk to themselves. One person may think, "I can handle this. I may not have all the answers yet, but I can learn." Another person may think, "I am not capable of this. I am going to fail." The situation is the same, but the internal conversation is different. Your mind responds to the messages you feed it. If those messages are filled with doubt, fear, and negativity, your confidence will suffer. If those messages are filled with encouragement, possibility, and resilience, your confidence will grow stronger. This does not mean pretending that everything is perfect. It does not mean ignoring challenges or convincing yourself that success will come without effort. Positive self-talk is not about denying reality. It is about interpreting reality in a way that supports growth rather than destroys confidence. For example, imagine making a mistake during an important presentation. A destructive inner voice might say, "I embarrass myself. I am terrible at this. Everyone probably thinks I am incompetent." A productive inner voice might say, "That was not my best performance, but I learned something valuable. I can improve and do better next time." Both perspectives acknowledge the mistake, but only one encourages growth. The quality of your self-talk often determines whether setbacks become obstacles or opportunities. When challenges arise, your inner dialogue can either strengthen your confidence or weaken it. It can remind you of your ability to adapt, or it can convince you that you should give up. Many limiting beliefs are created through repeated negative self-talk. A person may experience one rejection and begin telling themselves they are not good enough. They may struggle with one challenge and conclude that they are incapable. They may fail once and start believing they will always fail. These conclusions are rarely based on objective evidence. They are often the result of stories repeated so frequently that they begin to feel true. One of the most powerful things you can do is become aware of those stories. Pay attention to the language you use when speaking to yourself. Notice how often you focus on limitations rather than possibilities. Notice how quickly you criticize yourself after a mistake. Notice how often you assume the worst before even trying. Awareness creates choice. Once you recognize a negative thought pattern, you can challenge it. You can ask yourself whether the thought is actually true. You can examine the evidence. You can replace exaggerated self-criticism with a more balanced and constructive perspective. The goal is not to eliminate every negative thought. Every human being experiences doubt, fear, and insecurity from time to time. The goal is to stop allowing those thoughts to control your identity. Thoughts are not always facts. Just because a negative thought appears in your mind does not mean it deserves your belief. Confident people are not free from self-doubt. They simply refuse to let self-doubt become the loudest voice in the room. They recognize fear without surrendering to it. They acknowledge challenges without defining themselves by them. They develop the ability to encourage themselves even when circumstances are difficult. The way you speak to yourself influences the actions you take. If your inner dialogue constantly predicts failure, you become less likely to take risks. If it constantly focuses on weaknesses, you become less willing to pursue opportunities. If it repeatedly questions your worth, You begin shrinking your ambitions to match your insecurities. On the other hand, when your inner dialogue supports growth, you become more willing to take action. You become more resilient after setbacks. You become more open to challenges because you trust your ability to learn and adapt. You stop expecting perfection and start focusing on progress. Every day, your inner voice is shaping your confidence. Every thought is either strengthening your belief in yourself or weakening it. Every story you repeat is influencing the person you are becoming. The more you learn to guide that conversation with intention, the more control you gain over your confidence, your decisions, your resilience, and the way you see your own potential. One of the biggest myths about confidence is the belief that confident people take action because they feel ready. Many people spend years waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect level of confidence before they begin. They tell themselves that once they feel fearless, they will start the business. Once they feel confident, they will speak up. Once they feel ready, they will pursue their goals. The problem is that confidence rarely works that way. Most people imagine confidence as something that comes first. They believe action follows confidence. In reality, action often comes first and confidence follows. The people you admire for their confidence were not necessarily born with it. They developed it by repeatedly taking action despite uncertainty, fear, and self-doubt. Think about any skill you have today. There was a time when you were inexperienced. There was a time when you felt uncomfortable and unsure of yourself. Whether it was driving a car, speaking in public, learning a language, using technology, or performing a job, you were not confident at the beginning. Confidence came later. It came through practice, repetition, and experience. The reason so many people remain stuck is that they expect confidence to appear before they take the first step. They treat confidence as a requirement rather than a result. They wait for a feeling that may never arrive. Meanwhile, opportunities pass by because fear convinces them they are not ready. Fear has a way of making action seem more dangerous than it really is. It exaggerates risks and minimizes possibilities. It focuses your attention on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. It creates imaginary scenarios that often never happen. As a result, people remain trapped in a cycle of hesitation. The comfort zone feels safe because it is familiar. There is little uncertainty there. There is little risk of failure or embarrassment. But there is also very little growth. Confidence cannot expand if you spend your entire life avoiding situations that challenge you. Growth requires movement beyond what feels comfortable. Every confident person has experienced moments of uncertainty. Every successful person has faced situations where they felt unprepared. The difference is that they acted anyway. They understood that waiting for complete certainty is unrealistic because certainty rarely exists. They accepted that discomfort is part of progress. Imagine standing at the edge of a swimming pool, wanting to learn how to swim. You can read books about swimming. You can watch videos. You can study techniques and gather information. But eventually, you have to enter the water. No amount of preparation can replace direct experience. The same principle applies to confidence. You cannot think your way into confidence. You must act your way into it. Action creates evidence. Every time you do something difficult, you prove to yourself that you are capable of handling challenges. Every time you face a fear and survive, your belief in yourself grows stronger. Every experience becomes proof that you can adapt, learn, and improve. Many people underestimate the power of small actions. They think confidence requires dramatic achievements. In reality, confidence often grows through small acts of courage performed consistently over time. Speaking up in a meeting, starting a conversation, sharing an idea, applying for an opportunity, learning a new skill, or taking the first step toward a goal may seem insignificant, but each action sends an important message to your mind. That message is simple: I can do difficult things. The more often you send that message, the stronger it becomes. Confidence is built through accumulated evidence. It is built through experiences that demonstrate your ability to face uncertainty and continue moving forward. There will always be reasons to wait. There will always be obstacles, doubts, and excuses. You may feel that you need more knowledge, more resources, more experience, or more certainty. While preparation is important, there comes a point when preparation becomes procrastination. Some people spend years getting ready for a life they never actually begin. Perfectionism often contributes to this problem. People want everything to be flawless before they start. They want guarantees that they will succeed. They want certainty that they will not fail. Unfortunately, those guarantees do not exist. Progress belongs to those who are willing to begin before everything feels perfect. When you take action before you feel ready, you discover something important. You discover that readiness is often created through the process itself. Skills improve through practice. Knowledge grows through experience. Confidence develops through repetition. Many of the abilities you seek can only be gained after you start. The first attempt may be awkward. The first step may feel uncomfortable. The first experience may not go exactly as planned. That is normal. Confidence is not about performing perfectly from the beginning. It is about trusting your ability to learn and improve along the way. Every challenge you face becomes an opportunity to strengthen that trust. Each obstacle teaches you something new. Each setback develops resilience. Each success provides evidence of your capabilities. Even when outcomes are not ideal, the experience itself contributes to growth. People often look at confident individuals and assume they possess something special. They assume confidence came naturally to them. What they usually do not see are the countless moments when those individuals acted despite fear. They do not see the nervous presentations, the rejected applications, the failed attempts, and the uncomfortable experiences that helped build confidence over time. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move forward despite fear. Courage is not waiting until fear disappears. Courage is taking action while fear is still present. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not necessarily fearless. They simply refuse to allow fear to make their decisions for them. Every meaningful goal involves uncertainty. Every worthwhile opportunity involves risk. Every significant achievement begins with a first step that often feels uncomfortable. The willingness to act before you feel completely ready separates those who grow from those who remain stuck. The more often you take action despite doubt, the more you prove to yourself that fear does not control you. The more experiences you collect, the stronger your confidence becomes. The more evidence you create, the easier it becomes to trust yourself in future situations. Action transforms possibility into reality, uncertainty into experience, and self into self. Belief through repeated demonstrations of your ability to move forward, even when confidence has not fully arrived.